Hey guys, it's Timothy here. Recording from the classroom today. Welcome to my class. But anyway, we are in day 3 of Modern Masters previews, and we've still got the hits coming. You can tell right by what we have on screen that Linvala is our first spoiler today, and that's a big one too. Linvala, I don't think has ever been reprinted since original Zendikar block, and it's admittedly not the most popular card in Modern. I do see it in sideboards quite often. I know it was there for Splinter Twin, since it stops all your opponent's activated abilities, but it pops up every now and then, mostly as a sideboard card, but it's just a very, very strong card in general, and the type of card that the price has just spiraled out of control. So having Linvala reprinted here is awesome, both from a financial standpoint and from a limited standpoint and from a repoint standpoint. So Linvala checks off all the boxes, right? Great in limited, a card that people have trouble getting a hold of because of its high price value or its high price point, and just an exciting reprint. Is actually a very unexpected card, a card that kind of didn't come to memory when I was thinking about reprints here, simply because it doesn't actually see a lot of play, but is still a very important sideboard card against very specific types of decks, namely decks like Splinter Twin, even though that's not really a thing that exists anymore, right? Moving on, we have Abyssal Spectre. This is not a card that I've seen a lot of either. I don't think this card really sees any modern play, or at least I've never seen it come up in a game before. But for those of you who don't know, it's 2 double black for a 2/3 flyer, a Spectre creature. Whenever it deals damage to a player, that player discards a card. Spectre is like the code name for a creature that makes your opponent discard whenever it hits them. I think Hypnotic Spectre might be the first one, maybe Abyssal Spectre. If I'm not mistaken, this is actually new art for the card. I'm actually going to double check that real quick. I don't actually know what set Abyssal Spectre is from, so we shall find out. And I think I spelled it with R-E instead of E-R. Spectre. Yeah, Abyssal Spectre. Oh, this card's... Alright, this is from... Really? Is that the only place it's been reprinted? Printed? Is that dual deck? That can't be right. Anyway, it doesn't look like it has any other printings here. But anyway, there you go. Abyssal Spectre from some random dual deck. A card I've never seen before in my life, now that I think about it. Definitely doesn't see modern play, but at any rate, that's the card we have here. It seems like a fine limited card, 2/3 flyer that makes your opponent discard when it hits them. For 4 mana is a pretty acceptable card, so good from a limited perspective. The art is pretty sweet on it too, so we'll take it. Phantasmal Image, really nice card that I know sees play in Merfolk. I'm not sure what else it sees play in. I know there's some really weird Painter's Servant, Woodland Bellwar deck that plays Phantasmal Images. And again, it's not like a $10 card. It's somewhere around 6 or 7, I believe. But it's a pretty popular card when it comes to the clone ability. It's one of the best at doing that. And as far as clones go, this is the only clone that comes to mind that's played in Modern, but it is in fact played in Modern. And from a limited perspective, I have to imagine that Phantasmal Image is not as good as it seems, since it is so easy to kill a creature with that illusion ability on it, so to speak. So I don't know how this is going to play out in the set yet, but it is a pretty nice reprint as far as getting a useful Modern card goes, and it remains to be seen how useful that's going to be in limited here. Seance and Entreat the Angel. Seance is such a weird card to include here. If you go back, like sometime last year, there was this whole debacle about the card Seance, and some millionaire who was offering people lots of money to play 4 Seances in some Modern deck. Or at least I believe it was Modern, and I don't know that that actually happened or anything, but Seance is a whatever card. I don't know. It's the type of card you don't want to open, like bottom of the barrel when it comes to rares. In Limited, it may have some value there, but it's got no value as far as price point goes, and it's not even like an amazing card. For those of you who don't know, it's a 4-mana enchantment. On your upkeep, you can exile a creature from your graveyard. You get a copy of that for the turn. And it doesn't even like gain haste or anything like that. So it's just a weird thing. You can use it on your opponent's upkeep, but you need a constant stream of cards in your graveyard in order to make it anything useful at all. And a lot of like enter the battlefield triggers to make it, I don't know, something playable. So Seance, kind of a miss on that front. But we haven't seen very many misses here, so I'll take it. Entreat the Angels. Lots of miracle cards in this set. Basically all of the Avacyn Restored Miracle cards are here. Like, we already saw Temporal Mastery. We already saw Bonfire of the Damned. Entreat the Angels is here, too. This card is insanely strong. Even in Limited, like, you're paying 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer, which is like a common card, maybe an uncommon card, and then the fact that it scales and has Miracle is pretty insane. So this is a very strong card. It's not played in Modern again, or at least I've never seen it in Modern. It's extremely popular in Legacy when it comes to the Miracles deck. In fact, this and Terminus are the reason it's called Miracles, so maybe they snuck in some Legacy love there, but Entreat the Angels is not really a Modern card, but it is a strong Limited card, and you'll be happy taking this. It was just reprinted in From the Vault Angels 2 years ago, I believe, or a year and a half ago, if you want to be like super specific. So don't expect to hit the value or jackpot when it comes to Entreat the Angels, but be happy when you do open it in Limited because it is very strong. Right from there, we will look at 2 cards they spoiled kind of together today, Momentary Blink and Mist Raven. Momentary Blink just reinforcing that blink strategy we already know we're getting in blue-white, and a pretty decent effect, the Cloud Shift type effect where you exile a creature you control and then immediately put it back onto the battlefield under its owner's control. That's pretty important if there's any sort of mind control effects in this set, and it's pretty cheap to do that, so it lets you rebuy and enter the battlefield trigger. It lets you do some fancy stuff where you can save a creature from a removal spell or something along those lines, and then Flashback lets you get that again. So you can definitely get somebody or trick somebody with this card, but they're going to see the flashback coming, which doesn't mean they can stop it necessarily. Like, they're still going to have to, keep in mind that you can use this ability whenever, so it changes the way the game plays out a little bit. So pretty nice, kind of weird art here. You got like that little Griff Spoon thing being attacked, but I don't know, it's pretty sweet. And then Mist Raven is like Mana War on wings. For 1 extra blue mana, you're actually getting a Mana War with flying, which is pretty nice. Mist Raven is a solid card. It is a very good card to be repetitively blinking, since it keeps your opponent off of their creatures. And it's just a solid card all the way around. It's a common here. I think it was a common in whatever set. I want to say some core set. Maybe it was a Dark Ascension or something like that. But these type of cards are usually pretty good, and putting on a flyer seems decent too. A little on the expensive side, but still, this is looking to be a slower format here, or at least from what we've seen, it's kind of a very slow-paced format, and that means Mist Raven should perform pretty well. 2 more, Pyromancer Ascension and Sphinx's Revelation. We all know how good Sphinx's Revelation is. That card dominated in Standard. While it was in Standard, it seems like a very good Limited card. I have to admit, I didn't play a lot of Return to Ravnica Limited, and even the sets I did, I've never seen Revelation come up in a Limited game, but I have played the mess out of this card in Commander and cubes and stuff like that. So Sphinx's Revelation, very solid card. If you can support the mana cost here, remember that there's a lot of fixing in this set, so Revelation shouldn't be that hard to pull off, but it is a very solid card. And again, it's mythic, not like a $10 card, but very solid card as it is. Pyromancer Ascension's a weird one. Really, the only decks that play Pyromancer Ascension that I know of are Storm decks, and it doesn't look like we're going to get Storm here in Limited. Storm was a viable archetype in the very first Modern Masters, but we haven't seen any Storm cards or any reason to think that Pyromancer's Ascension is going to be like an all-star in Limited. This is probably one of those bust rares that you're okay opening from a booster box or something like that if you're trying to make your money back, but not the type of card you want to pass in Limited. With that being said, if you're looking to value draft, this is the type of card you get to pick up pretty easily, because people are more competitive when it comes to Modern Masters and these Master sets, because they are paying such a high price point that they really want to win. And that means they take less of these janky rares. So if you're the type of person who attends these events just to value draft, you might be able to pick up some spare Pyromancer Ascension for your really bad Modern Storm deck if, people are still playing that. It's not really popular right now. Storm is not really on the uptick. Moving on, we have Death Shadow. For those of you who don't know, Death Shadow is a 1 black 13/13 that gets -X/-X, where X is your life total. It works very, very well in conjunction with Phyrexian mana cards or anything that lets you pay life, even though we have not seen a lot of things that let you do that right now. There are fetch lands, but you're not going to have a deck full of fetch lands. So I don't know. Death Shadow seems like a risky maneuver to take in limited. I have no idea how it plays out. Again, these cards, we know how they work when it comes to Modern, but putting them all together in a limited set seems like there are some really neat interactions we need to look out for. And Death Shadow is on my radar as far as cards that I need to really compare to the rest of the set before I make an assumption about it. With that being said, Death Shadow is extremely popular in Modern right now. Claimed by a lot of people to be the best deck in Modern a couple months ago. I'm sure that's kind of been on the decline lately since, the deck did lose Gitaxian Probe, and there are ways to fight it. But it is a pretty strong deck. I know it used to be kind of a cutesy deck, but it's a pretty top-tier deck, and it takes advantage of like the Teamer Battle Rage combo and the stupid spells like Become Immense and Mutagenic Growth to really nail your opponent in one hit. Death Shadow is a pretty scary card in Modern. 1 mana for a potential 13/13 is ridiculous. Next to Abrupt Decay is fantastic reprint here. Possibly, no, I'm not going to go that far, but one of the best, definitely top 5 best removal spells when it comes to Modern. Possibly even Legacy. That whole can't be countered thing is just insanely good on this card, and it's what makes it good. If you're playing the colors green and black, you're somehow playing Abrupt Decays. Maybe not 4 of them, but you are playing a good number of them in your main deck, possibly extras in the sideboard against counter-heavy matchups. So Abrupt Decay, again, in Limited, it's very similar to Inquisition of Kozilek, where it's primed for Modern. Its effectiveness is really ideal for Modern, maybe even Legacy, but it might miss the mark a lot of times in Draft. It's very prohibitive colors, green, black specifically, but we've seen a lot of fix-in, and it will hit enough things that you'll play it every time. Not to mention, Abrupt Decay doesn't hit creatures only. It hits any non-land permanent like, Liliana of the Veil or Domri Raid or something like that. So it's a pretty solid card. Is Domri Raid 4 mana? I don't know. Domri Raid might be 3 mana. But Abrupt Decay is a solid card, and I think this is its first reprinting as well. Foils of this card are really expensive, so pretty nice that it's seeing a reprint here. One of my favorite spoilers, if not my favorite spoil today, I'm going to make it the thumbnail. If I didn't make it the thumbnail, let me know I messed up. But Craterhoof Behemoth, this card is absurd and has never been reprinted. This is like one of the big green fatties of choice. When it comes to green fatties, like game-ending green cards, the ones I think of are Terastodon and Craterhoof Behemoth. Those are the ones that just pop into mind immediately. And Craterhoof Behemoth is insanely good. If you don't know what it does, read the card. It pumps your entire team. It gives you like a little mini overrun, and itself has haste. So we already know green-red is the go wide strategy, as they've mentioned in this set, and Craterhoof Behemoth is a card to really top that off. Make a huge board, punch tokens, and by the time you get to 8 mana, you should be able to slam this thing and win the game instantly. A word on that, same thing I said with Grizzlebrand. We don't really know how likely it is that you're going to be able to get to 8 mana and just put this on the battlefield, and we also don't know what kind of mana fixin', or not mana fixin', but mana acceleration and ramp we're going to get in this set. So it's hard to tell right now whether an 8-drop is really a viable strategy, but with the pain lands, or the gain lands, not the pain lands, being as slow as they are, and this being a 3-color format, I'm willing to say that this is probably a slow format, to the point where you could play 8-drops like Grizzlebrand and Craterhoof Behemoth, if the color restriction isn't too hard on you. So I'm never passing Craterhoof Behemoth. It's just too insanely good of a card, and I'm happy to see it finally get a reprint. I'm saying that about a lot of cards. Probably gave this one away. I had no doubt in my mind Liliana was going to be in the set. It absolutely is. It had to be, right? It had to be. It's one of the incentives for even making this set. But Liliana of the Veil, called by some the best planeswalker of all time outside of Jace the Mind Sculptor, and that may or may not be true. One of the best planeswalkers in Modern, at the very least. I think most people can agree on that. Just a combination of hand disruption and creature removal, and you do see this come up in Modern sometimes. The -6 ability. Normally, when that comes up, it's a stalled game where people just are top decking back and forth, and the -6 really pushes you ahead. Where It cuts your opponent's resources in half, or at least makes them choose between their important resources and their non-important resources. But really, Liliana's strength is in the combination of its +1 disrupting your opponent's hand and its -2 just eating up creatures. If you can play this on turn 3, and your opponent only has 1 creature on board, or at least 2 relevant creatures, then Liliana does her job well. And she's not a lot of initial investment. 3 mana seems really, really insane for a Planeswalker, and this is why, because you get this sort of destructive abilities on a very cheap Planeswalker and the ability to potentially tick it up. Now, you have to be able to somehow take advantage of that +1 tick if you're using that. Like, you don't want it to disadvantage you more than you do your opponent. But everybody knows Liliana the Veil is fantastic, and come on. Did anybody not think Liliana was going to be reprinted here? We all knew it. We knew from the second they said it goes through Innistrad, the 2 cards that everybody knew was going to be in the set, Snapcaster Mage and Liliana the Veil. The rest is speculation, but I think they've done a good job here. A couple comments here. Magma Jet, card from Theros. I think it may have been reprinted before Theros, in fact. Let's check out. I'm checking my facts on camera here. It's pretty important that I'm pretty sure Magma Jet was in another set. Yeah, it was in whatever this is. That's a dual deck, but I guess I can't see the other expansions here. So anyway, Magma Jet is a good creature removal if there are aggressive decks, and Magma Jet's great against it. Not to mention it can hit players too. This card was really, really good in Theros draft, and I have to take a venture here and say that it's probably going to be good here too. Even though we got a lot more fatties this time around, it's nice that it takes out a lot of the little guys. So Magma Jet, solid card. Scry 2 is great on this sort of effect. Burning Tree Emissary, I think, has been downticked to an common. I would bet money without double checking here that it was an uncommon in Gatecrash. And it's really nice that it's common, because this is the type of creature where you want multiples of it. It fits that green-red go wide strategy pretty well, where you can just dump a bunch of Burning Tree Emissaries on the field, and it makes for just a solid creature. Anytime you can play this on turn 2 and follow up with another creature, you should be pretty ahead on board. And it's not the worst in the late game either. It's just a free 2/2 if you're able to follow it up with anything. So really solid pick here, and the downgrade to common is nice as well. Past in Flames, this one's a little on the disappointing side for a couple reasons. First off, it doesn't seem like there's a heavy instant and sorcery themed deck in this set, and Past in Flames only gives flashbacks to instants and sorceries. Second off, this was actually just reprinted last November in one of the commander decks. I want to say the Yidris deck, the non-white deck, had Past in Flames in it, and that tanked the price of the card. Like, you can get Past in Flames for $1 or $2. This is new art for the card, and maybe that's intentional as a way for you to still want this Past in Flames despite the price drop recently. But I don't see a lot of reasons we need to play this card yet. Now, maybe if they decide to print Lightning Bolt, which is very possible, I would actually be surprised if they didn't put Lightning Bolt in this set with the quality that they've been doing in the set. Then Past in Flames looks a little bit better, but as is, I'm a little confused about the inclusion here. It doesn't seem like it melds a lot with the rest of the set, but we'll see how many instants and sorceries there are. I mean, you can always buy back a Terminate or Path to Exile, I guess, something like that. So not the worst card in the world, but definitely not the card you want when it comes to value. It's like the Comet Storm of the set when it comes to value, right, for your Mythic. Vithian Stinger. This is 2 and a red for a 0/1 uncommon human shaman. I'm not sure what rarity it was before, but it's an uncommon here, and it's a pinger. It taps to deal damage to a creature or player, and it has Unearth too, which is a weird ability on a pinger, but if you just need to kill some 1 toughness creature, then this does the job pretty nicely. Cards like this make combat really hard for your opponent. They pressure planeswalkers. They pick off tokens pretty easily. So, again, this is the type of card where I look at it and I'm like, all right, let me wait until the whole set is out, and then I'll make a judgment about how good it is, because we really need to know how many X1s there are. If you're paying 3 mana just to shoot your opponent for 1 every turn, you could do better than that. The Unearth is not irrelevant here either, so keep that in mind that this can come back for a turn at any given moment, sorcery speed. At any given sorcery speed moment, and it may have a lot more application than we see here. With that being said, the next card on this list is Basilisk Collar, which is insane with pingers. Basilisk Collar, I did not know this card was as expensive as it was. I've seen it come up in Commander games quite often. It's a really popular equipment, gives lifelink and death touch to the creature, but I didn't realize it was like a $15 or $16 card. So that should lower the price of it while also making it a desirable card to open. And it's just really cheap, good equipment, which is something I can't say about equipment very often. I want to say Basilisk Collar was from World Wake and has never seen a reprint since. But just turning any of your creatures into something that trades and gains life is pretty nice. So it puts your opponent in a tough spot where normally they might trade with your creature, but if they don't trade, you're gaining free life and you're getting in free damage. And if they do trade, the Death Touch makes sure that anything they block with is dead and you still gain life. So this has got to be just a really good card in Limited. If you guys would let me know, actually, if you've played with Basilisk Collar in World Wake, like, was it good? Same thing I said about Goblin Guide. I didn't play during Zendikar and World Wake and Rise or whatever, so I don't really know the context for this card, but it seems like it'd be pretty strong in this set. These three cards, we're going to talk about them all at the same time. Bone Splinters, Gnawing Zombie, Mortician Beetle. First thing to note, Mortician Beetle used to be a rare, and it's like a really bad rare, but it's a fine card on its own. For those of you who don't know, it's a 1/1 for 1 black. Whenever a player sacks a creature, you put a counter on it, 1/1 counter on it. And then you have Gnawing Zombie, where you can sack a creature and drain your opponent for a life. And then Bone Splinters, which I always like in Limited. Some people don't like it, but sack a creature to destroy a creature. You usually trade in a token for like your opponent's best creature and 1 black mana, which is pretty nice. It's actually just really solid common removal, and you play multiples of these if you have a high creature or token count. But what these three show us is there is a tiny little sacrifice theme going on in this set. I think it was Bloodspore Thrynax yesterday that made me start thinking, is there going to be a sacrifice theme in this set? Now, none of these are really outlets, so to speak. Note that Mortician Beetle doesn't actually sack creatures, but only gets a benefit when a creature is sacked. And Null Zombie is a little bit expensive to be a repetitive sack outlet. But there are things here that care about you sacrificing creatures, and there are probably a good number of payoffs that we'll see here, with Bloodsport Thrynax being one of them. Along that lines, we have Extractor Demon, which I did mention when we were talking about the Unearthed cards. It's a pretty good beater, like a 5/5 flyer for 6 is decent, but it can also be used as a mill card too, especially if you're really heavy on tokens. If you've never encountered Extractor Demon, what it does is whenever a creature leaves the battlefield from anybody's side of the battlefield, you can have a player put the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. So you mill 2 whenever a creature leaves the battlefield. And this gives you an alternative way to win if maybe the board is mucked up or your Extractor Demon just isn't cutting it. Keep in mind, 5/5 Flyer for 6 mana is already a pretty good beater, and Unearth on top of that is really nice. So I think this is a solid rare for Limited. It's a very cheap card otherwise, so maybe you don't want to open it when you're opening up your box, but Extractor Demon seems like a very strong card for this set. Falcon Wrath Aristocrat on this list. One of like my favorite arts when it comes to the vampires in the set. Falcon Wrath Aristocrat is it used to be a mythic and is a rare here, which is really nice because it's not an expensive card by any means, but it is just a very solid flyer. A 4-power haste flyer for 4 mana is already really good. 1 toughness could be a liability, like we've already seen a pinger, right? And then you may also sacrifice a creature to make it indestructible for the turn, which is nice, especially if you're in that kind of go wide tokeny deck or something like that. And if it's a human, you put a 1/1 counter on it. Now, I don't know how much that human thing's going to matter here. We haven't actually seen a lot of humans yet, but the most important part is this is a sacrifice outlet, and it's a really good beater. So very strong card here. Fits on theme pretty nicely, and again, kind of supports the whole thing that there will be a sacrifice theme in this set. So we really need to see the payoffs for sacrificing rather than the outlets here. We definitely have a nice little suite of cards that make for a sacrifice deck. And then last 2, I'll refresh the page and I'll let you on your way. Terminus and Lingering Souls. Terminus, one of the best miracle cards of all time. Probably more the namesake of Miracles than Entreat the Angels, since it is super important in that matchup. But again, that's Legacy, not Modern. Terminus is also one of my favorite removal spells. I'm very, very partial to things that get rid of the creatures indefinitely. So, not indefinitely, but without fail. So, every so often they'll print a removal spell like Wrath of God or Damnation or something like that, and it just won't be successful because your opponent might have an indestructible creature or something like that. There is no way around Terminus aside from exiling your creature for the turn or something like that, and we haven't seen that sort of effect yet. So Terminus is going to wipe the board, and if you can ever Miracle it, if you really need it, Miracle leads to some really great stories, which is why I love Miracle. It's just a fantastic mechanic. But Terminus, sweet card here, alongside Damnation means that we already have 2 rare sweepers in the set. So keep an eye out for how many sweepers are in the set. It is something you should note when you're looking at a new set. And then Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls is amazing. It's good in Limited as much as it is in any other format, especially Modern. Comes up in Legacy every now and then and was really, really strong when it was in Standard. Format All-Star type card. You're essentially paying 5 mana total for 4 1/1 white spirits, and if I have to explain to you why that's really, really good, then you should probably play a little bit more Limited. Even just spreading out that damage is great. Follow this up with a Craterhoof Behemoth. Boom, my white-black double, triple green deck just destroyed you. But Lingering Souls is very strong. It's also nice in conjunction with any like discard outlets. If you have effects that really matter but need you to discard things, pitching this to the graveyard and then just paying 2 mana for 2 spirits is still good. You see that a lot in Modern where people tick up Liliana. Your opponent has to discard a card and feels bad about it, and you have to discard a card. You just pitch Lingering Souls, and then you get your 2 souls, and you feel pretty good about it. So very nice reprint here. It is worth noting that they use the F&M promo art for this card instead of the original art, which, you know, if you feel a certain way about that, take note of it. But really good quality uncommon. Again, the quality of the uncommons in this set is fantastic so far, including, like, I could go through almost all of these and just be happy with opening any of them when it comes to a box. And the playability out of the limited format seems pretty insane. So again, let's just refresh, make sure that we don't have any surprise spoilers. It doesn't look like it. And that's going to do it for today. Lots of great stuff. I would love to know what you guys think about some of these reprints and whether or not you think this set is really hitting the mark. I think general consensus right now is that this set is really great. Return to Innistrad is fantastic. I'm sorry, we already returned to Innistrad. So RT Innistrad, Return to Innistrad is looking really, really sweet here. And I'm excited. I'm actually excited to see what else is coming out of spoiler season here. Normally, around day 3, I'm like, well, we're going to start hitting some of the blanks, right? And, you know, every now and then there's a little bit of a blank here and there, but this set has been hit for the most part, and I'm pretty excited to see what else they have in store for us. So that'll do it for today. Thanks for stepping into my classroom with me for the day. I appreciate it. My name's Timothy, and as always, I'll see y'all next time.